expressed on this show are those of the authors. Any content provided by our bloggers or authors are of their opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, municipality, individual, or anyone or anything.
He's a surgeon. He's a 100-ton boat captain. He's a lieutenant on Seaside Heights Beach Patrol in New Jersey. He's a member of the Coast Guard Auxiliary. He's Dr. Michael Kachmar. Need answers to your medical questions? We have them. Listen in to hear latest on medical topics related to all that and more.
This is an article out of The Atlantic. The Atlantic is actually, very well written periodical. This is, for the leftist elite. This is what they read. This is their bread and butter. And and so they have here an article. I love the picture here. It says, "Let's declare a pandemic amnesty."
Right.
Let's go right. Put me back. Get me back on there. Yeah, sure. Let's look at our whiteboard, because we have a whiteboard here. The Atlantic. It says in my whiteboard here, "Let's declare a pandemic amnesty," and I write down no, and not like when they say about drugs. Remember, he said just say no to drugs.
Just say no to drugs.
They say just no, KNOW,
right?
Which is
KNOW. Oh,
just no.
So annoying.
I know it is.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that means. But anyway, let's go. So go back to my iPad. Yeah. So what this is great. Let's focus on the future and fix the problems we still need to solve. This is by Emily Oster. So so let me just premise this. What they're saying is, let's kumbaya. We all made mistakes. Sure. Let's move on. Well, let's just go. Yeah. So here's a little bit in the beginning. In April, I'm going to read something here. In April 2020, with nothing else to do, my family took an enormous number of hikes. We all wore cloth masks that I had made myself. We had a family hand signal, which the person in front would use if someone was approaching on the trail and we needed to put our mask on. Once, when another child got too close to my 4-year-old son on the bridge, he yelled at her, social distancing. These precautions were totally misguided. This is what this author's saying now. In April 2020, no one got the coronavirus from passing someone else hiking. Outdoor transmission was vanishingly rare. Other cloth masks made out of old bananas wouldn't have done anything anyway, but the thing is, we didn't know. Now, just stop there for a second, okay? Right. Let's just analyze that. There's a lot of stuff here. First of all, this is out of the Atlantic. I'm quoting. This is not, I was there. You were there. Mm-hmm. I watched Rachel Maddow sit and say, you get the vaccine, it's
You're
done.
Not going to get...
Right. Yeah. Anyway, I know this is, I might get thrown off YouTube for this, but the point is, we're just talking, this is an article in Atlantic. And this is what they're saying. We all got it wrong. Well, I don't think I got it wrong.
No.
Okay. So, but anyway, I'm just going to go down here. This is interesting part. So you can see what they're trying to do here is they're trying to hedge their bets. They know that a reckoning's coming.
Sure.
So obviously, some people intended to mislead and made wildly irresponsible claims. Okay. Remember when the public health community had to spend a lot of time and resources urging Americans, not to inject themselves with bleach and all that. So, there was a lot of crazy stuff. And that's always been, okay? And so here it says, people who got it. So this is the interesting where they're coming here. And I really recommend you read this article. It's a really good article. Somebody just came out with a rebuttal article. But it says, the people who got it right, for whatever reason, may want to gloat. Those who got it wrong, for whatever reason, may feel defensive and retrenched into a position that doesn't accord with the facts. All this gloating defensiveness continues to gobble up a lot of social energy and to drive the culture wars, especially on the internet, which we are now. Right. These discussions are heated, unpleasant, and ultimately unproductive. In the face of such uncertainty, getting something right had a heftier element of luck. And similarly, getting something wrong wasn't a moral failing. Treating pandemic choices as a scorecard on which people racked up more points than others is preventing us from moving forward. Right. Okay. Here's the thing, what gets me about this whole article is you know what? I guess a lot of people who write these articles, either they're smart, but they think the American, probably a lot of people don't watch stuff, don't remember, and are not, you know, and I'm here to say, no. Go back to me.
Yeah, you're on. Just me.
There. So listen to what I'm going to tell you. I want you to comment on this. So what they're saying is we should forgive everything because nobody really knew. Well, a lot of people knew a lot.
A lot of people knew.
Now, state of New Jersey.
You know what? When they knew, they told you not to talk about it, not to ask
right.
about it, not to do anything about it.
Right.
So those people who knew, they really knew. Because why else would we not be allowed to talk about it?
Why were we throttled? Listen.
And we're still not allowed to talk about it.
We're still not. We can't talk about, you know, can't talk about January 6th. You can't talk about.
I mean, doesn't that make
you can't talk about the election.
Yeah.
You can't talk about what else? You can't talk about. You know,
almost everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
You know, well, what I'm pointing out again, I don't want to get off my tour. Here's what I say. You know, it was not only what happened was the bigger picture is we had a national emergency and a medical emergency. And what happened? The executive branch, the President of the United States, the governors, which are a legislative branch, trashed, or not trashed, but sidestepped the Constitution because of the pandemic.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
And
they took liberties.
And they took liberties.
Yeah.
And by law, you know, martial law, not martial, but when you have an emergency, in fact, Biden right now, I think, still declared us in a medical emergency or state of emergency still with corona. Yeah. So that gives the executive branch powers. Yeah. They don't need the judicial. They don't need the legislative. Mm-hmm. So in New Jersey, what they do, one of the things they did, we talked about this, is they, through the health department, executive order, okay? Yeah. Told the hospitals and the nursing homes that when you had an elderly patient in the hospital with corona, you had to send back to the nursing home. You remember all of that? Yep. We had thousands and thousands of people die in the nursing home. Yes. Now, at that time...
Without their families with them.
Now, that's another whole thing. But at that time, there was a ship out in New York, that big medical ship.
Yeah, that they never used.
And they took the Jarvis Center, and the military had that place wide open. They could have sent those people there. Mm-hmm. Why didn't they? I don't know. Yeah. Now...
And you're not allowed to ask either.
No, can't. Yeah. No. But here's the thing. Then what the governor of this state did the following year is spent $500 million of New Jersey taxpayer money to investigate why so many people died in the nursing homes. By the way, the people who were involved in that investigation were Barack Obama associates. Mm. So they bias. And what they came out with is saying that it was the nursing home's fault. Basically, didn't have enough. They weren't trained enough. They didn't have enough staff. Blah 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 blah. Right. Nothing pointing back to the administrative state. Not to the executive branch. You understand? Yep. The other thing that I cannot give you amnesty on. So right there, listen. We knew better. I knew.
Yeah, we knew.
Wasn't. I mean, I said you can't send these. Dr. Dersha and I were sitting here going, you can't send these people back. They're contagious. All right. What the thought was? What we were told? Well, listen, we got to keep the hospitals open because we could get overwhelmed. Mm. And these elderly, they're 90 years old. It's a matter of lesser of two evils. We want to save 1 million. We might have to kill, 100,000 may have to die. It's like a military thing. Yeah. Okay. And I understand that, but did we really need to do that? There was other alternatives, in my opinion. That's just I'm a pundit. Putin, what am I, a pundit? A pundit. Now, the next thing I think that I cannot forgive, I cannot give you a pass on. Mm. How many people died in the hospital, right? And their mother and father couldn't go in and see them, or the children couldn't go hold their hand,
hold the hands of their mom or dad in their last moments.
They didn't give a shit about me. I went in the hospital and treated these patients. Yeah, I wore a mask, a shield. and I went and treated them. This is before the vaccines even came out. I've had people, I wasn't taking care. I mean, I had people who, patients I took care of got corona while they were in the hospital, had ankle fractures, whatever. You weren't allowed to go in there. You couldn't have a funeral.
No.
I mean, think about you talk about how many drug addiction overdoses.
The bodies were stacked up. They had to bring in refrigerating units just to keep them on ice, so we could eventually give them a funeral or a burial.
No.
I mean, it was a nightmare.
No.
This was like this was science fiction.
I'm not going to sit here
in real life.
Right? Why couldn't you have? Well, I can tell you. I remember towards the end. This was not that long ago. This was last fall. Mm-hmm. No, last spring. My friend's mom, she was dying. She had bad heart. She was like almost 90 years old, so she was on her way out anyway. Yeah. She got corona. But she hardly could walk and breathe to begin with, right? She got corona. She went in the hospital. She was actually pretty good. She was waving from the window. And then about an hour later, she had a heart attack. So I don't think they realized, But my point is, she didn't die of COVID, but nobody could go see her. They'd sit in the parking lot, talk on the phone, and she'd wave. There is no reason, in my opinion, for that. Right. You could have let those son and daughter go in there, wear a mask, wear a shield. And some of them actually were vaccinated. Right. Even the people who were vaccinated, you still weren't allowed to go in there. That's not right. Yeah. That's not right. And, so they want an amnesty. Are you gonna, let's just go back to what they're asking. This is the left. Right. Listen, we all made mistakes.
Yeah, but the mistakes they made were so well thought out, right? When they were making them, all right? They were finding what worked and what didn't work, and they just, this is what we're doing anyway. And that's where...
Get the thing out of there, Jeremy, because I don't know if it's going to show up. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's where we get a little upset because these people died. They died alone. You have a family for a certain reason, don't you? I mean, they're with you through your life, and then sadly, when your life is coming to an end, you have all your loved ones around you, and you can go away off in peace.
Right.
Yeah,
you need closure.
That's really what we hope for.
Let's go back to let's go back to the videotape, as they say. Let's go back to my. You got to read. This is her last paragraph here. You got to read. This is great. So I'm reading this now. Right. The standard saying is that those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. Right. I like that. Yeah. But dwelling on the mistakes of history can lead to a repetitive doom loop as well. Yeah. No. See, that's just look at
the word there that pisses you off the most is dwelling. You can easily substitute like the rights and wrongs, looking for a justice for these people by just saying, well, you're dwelling on it.
No, how about the problem, right? How about I'm analyzing it? Yeah. I can tell you right now.
If you say dwelling, you're the problem still.
So this is how the left, their mind. I don't know what it is with them. Whether or not they
dwelling. There's intent
on the mistakes of history. First of all, there's mistakes. I'll change this by analyzing on the injustices of history. Yep. Is what can lead to good outcomes. Right. How about that, young lady? Whoever wrote this. It says,
if you've got to learn from history, let's remove that word dwelling again. You have to investigate to learn. That's the only way you're going to get knowledge.
Well, and you have to leave and you have to. You know what? If they let us have free speech, if they let the doctors not even do what they want to do, but let us say on the internet what we think about the medications, what we think about everything, and have an open discussion. Mm. You got a guy right now who's a Harvard grad, who's the medical director down in Florida. He came out with a huge paper, and they're criticizing him. The guy's like Harvard trained. I mean, there's a lot of doctors who don't buy into what the government's narrative. But But let me say, so she goes, let's acknowledge that we made complicated choices in the face of deep uncertainty, and then try to work together to build back and move forward. So they're asking. You could see they know what's coming.
Right.
They know what's coming. And what's coming is they're going to be held accountable. And, there's certain things that you could get away. Like, listen, But when you go out and kill 20 people.
Yeah, like you do.
Well, we're not going to, I'm sorry, we're not going to give you a walk.
Yeah. What, really? But there was like unprecedented times. I mean, you have to understand that.
Right. And so I'm in the midst of a, battle or whatever,
Right.
And I cause atrocities, that's when the true character. See, I would say to this young lady here, and she, very sure, very nice lady, whatever, when the shit hits the fan, when we were staring down the face of this pandemic, and I remember you couldn't go on the boardwalk, everybody was shit scared. I remember the AIDS virus, the AIDS epidemic.
Yeah.
I was a doctor at that time. Go put me back on.
Sure.
I treated patients. You had a death. If you got infected, you were dead.
Yeah.
All right. When this happened, a lot of doctors were scared. In the beginning, I was concerned. I didn't know how infectious it was. But it became clear after a while that, what the level of infection and who it affected. And unfortunately, it affected the older people. And that was dangerous because I'm if you don't know, I'm a little older.
Yeah, you are a bit. I've noticed.
Right. But you know what? A guy like Dr. Kadersha, who we could talk about him. The guy's in his 70s. He had a heart transplant. He couldn't
looking good.
He
though,
couldn't.
Right now.
He couldn't get the vaccine. He couldn't. He treated patients the whole time, and I'm talking every day. People were like, "You're crazy." Then he finally got corona, like down the road. Yeah, he was sick. It beat up the shit out of him a little bit, but he never went to the hospital. I was talking to him. He's like, I feel like shit. I'm like, I came over and I went and got him chicken soup and everything, right. and I said, don't cough on me, So my point is that, and he was a Vietnam vet. He was worked in what do you call it? He was a medic. My point is, the people who are tough, who got character, we know how to deal with this. Yeah. We did deal with it. What this Atlantic is saying, you know what it is? Yeah, you guys overreacted.
Right.
You flipped out, and some people abused their power.
Yeah.
Some of the executives in the whole country, these governors, mayors, president, overstepped their bounds. They trashed the Constitution, and they did things that under the auspice of emergency, directives.
Mm-hmm. And there was also medications that we knew could help, but you weren't allowed to talk about them. You weren't allowed to bring them up.
Right. But here, and here's the thing. What I think should be done, you talk about, let it, forgive. No. I want investigations.
Learn from what we've
done.
I
want investigations, and I want, good investigations with the Congress. And here's what I want. I want states, say like New Jersey, maybe we should throttle down the power of the executive, whoever it is, Republican, Democrat, with regard to what he could do or she could do when there's a state of emergency.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
You talk about democracy, which is another, they use this word. But when you can't become a dictator because there's a virus going around.
Yeah.
You cannot become judge, jury, and executioner.
Well, during the elections, we didn't even think about if the shit hit the fan and something like this would happen, that the people that we elected into office would be the ones making all the decisions, and would we have trusted them to do such things, I worry about all that. In the early days, before we even had the idea of a vaccine, and they were putting everybody on, what were they putting them on, ventilators, was it? Or,
Yeah.
Would that have exasperated what they were going through to the point where that's why so many of them that went on the ventilators died?
Listen, you can't, listen.
My point is nobody asks the questions.
No.
Nobody asked anything.
No. The bottom line is you don't have to be specific. We weren't allowed to ask questions. First of all, what they did is one thing. They did things. They took people from the nursing home, put them back. From the hospital, put them in the nursing home. They didn't allow people to go into the hospital with their loved ones. There was all kinds of things. We understand that. But my point is that not only did they do that, they abused their power. But then, like you said, you were not allowed to comment about it. Mm-hmm. So what they did is they throttled your First Amendment. They went after the First Amendment, assembly, going to church. and they weren't consistent. I mean, we saw Pelosi getting her hair done, and we saw these politicians shutting down their states but going to Florida, with no mask on.
We saw politicians getting injections for what was supposed to be doled out to the people, and was, with nothing in the syringes.
Well, we don't know that. Don't go down. You're going to get me thrown off.
That.
I know, but don't see. See, that's what you don't want to say here. No, I'll take that back. You're going to get me thrown off for that.
We have a disclaimer.
No, we don't. That's not going to, YouTube don't care. Don't go down it. No. I take that back. You're going to fire him.
Well, my point in
just
saying,
keep it general.
My point in saying all this is this is the point of an investigation, is to dive down and find all these little things that we're not allowed to talk about even now. Right. And find out what the hell was really going on.
Right. But the thing is, I brought this article that you can see the left is squirming now. They're concerned. They're trying to hedge their bets. And listen, let's just, I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. But no, Fauci, the Rachel Maddow, they all going to need to, be held accountable for what they said. People on the right too. Yeah, people, who there's people on both sides. I agree with that. I agree with her, but I don't agree with her. I agree with that. There's been, things said on both sides. But I can tell you right now, it's more complicated than that. This is like kumbaya. It wasn't just people. It was the government. It was the government and the executive branches who took over and did, in my opinion, abuse the power in a